Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our session. I hope you guys are comfortably seated. Today is going to be an interesting topic to be discussed. So tune in, get comfortable before I start. I see a lot of people have already joined the session even before we kickstart. Thank you very much for coming in early. There are still many more are coming in right now as we speak. Can I just have some people here to say hi, hello, assalamualaikum at the comment section so that I know that we are live and we have two ways communication. Okay, great. Very well. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Awesome. Now, the way we always do our webinar session is we will be presenting with you information that we believe is required for HR, IR practitioners, and also business owners to know. At the same time, we will give opportunities for viewers to ask in questions. During our webinars, we will do our best today to answer as much as possible. We will post the questions here. We'll provide the answer instantaneously. For those who we are not able to answer you here, we will contact you directly with your question. So I do wish those who ask questions to put in your details so that I myself can directly come and reach out to you to discuss. Now, there are matters that I'm going to discuss today, which will get you thinking at the end of the session whether or not my company is facing the same, whether or not my company is well prepared to face the changes. Should you have scenarios that you are uncertain, feel free to reach out to any of the consultants at our company, and we are more than happy to sit down in a session with you to discuss the facts of the case and provide our opinion as and when required. I believe this type of changes that we have currently dah bukan main-main lagi because now we have criminal involvement here. Okay, I'll share my screen untuk kita start kat sini. Okay, great. So, over the next 60 minutes or so, I will unpack these new laws for you. I will try my best to simplify the amendments clause by clause so that we as HR and IR practitioners can understand and practically prepare ourselves for the changes. Some of the things I've discussed here may be something common and you have heard in the past. It may also be some actions that you have already been combating in the company. But for some, it could be a general attitude and behavior that now only we realize it is not tolerated. For a very long time, bullying and harassment in the workplace were often seen as an internal HR issue. Alah, HR tolong settlekan. HR can help to intervene. We will do it. HR will help to intervene and take actions for grievances involving bullying and harassment. However, we are quite limited to only our company handbooks, disciplinary policies, and procedures. Perhaps to a certain extent, Employment Act was also involved, especially whenever there is a dispute leading towards constructive dismissal, and Industrial Relations Act will come in. However, all of this having its own merits is still not enough to provide protection towards victims. And in Malaysia today, we see a lot more cases of bullying is arising. And surprisingly to many people assume bullying is only seen at the playground. People thought bullying is only for teenagers, for young teens. However, today's world and era, we can see that bullying also happens even at the workplace where mature adults are in. It also happens in small and big organizations. So this form of behavior, many studies and findings have shown that it's something that has been progressed from young till old. Jadi kita nampak budak-budak membuli, there are potential those bullies become workplace bullies at the end of the day. But the purpose of my discussion today is not for you to pinpoint siapa bully dekat company, but the purpose of my session today is to share with you first the definitions of bullying and harassment at the workplace, to share with you what are the new changes of the law when it comes to these offenses or criminalization of these acts, and I would like to share with you the tips and tricks. So I hope by the end of today's session, you have one question that you ask yourself and you will be able to answer whether or not your company is prepared for the changes under the Penal Code. And your answer may be, yes, I'm ready, somewhat ready, or we are far from it. That one, I leave it to you. You know who to reach out should you find it. It's something important for you to dive into quickly. Now, to start with, I'd like to share with you the definitions we have for bullying and harassment. Individuals have to answer to what they did. Okay. Oh, sorry, no voice. Dah boleh No voice, alamak. Check balance, check. Okay. Boleh dengar? Can I have anyone saying dah dengar? Okay, now okay. Thank you very much, guys. Baru ada. Great. So bullying, I would take the definition for bullying at the workplace from cases that has been decided in Malaysia as precedent, and also case laws that have been decided globally. Malaysia being a Commonwealth country, the common law that we have here is also being used elsewhere, and we take laws that we have not yet prepared for into consideration. So bullying refers to repeated unreasonable behavior directed towards an employee or group of employees that creates a risk to their health and safety. So remember, the key term here would be repetitive in nature and it causes or it resulted in harm. Kedua-dua ni kena kita gabungkan. We have to combine these two for us to say there's bullying happening. I would like you to think of it like there is a continuous or a pattern of malicious behavior, right? Harassment, whereas, may not be a repeated offense. It can be a single instance. It can even be a repeated conduct. It can be both, yeah? But what's important for us to prove is it is unwanted, offensive, humiliating, or even intimidating. It is often linked to creating a hostile work environment. So an important distinction is that a single act of harassment can now be a criminal offense if it meets the criteria of the new law. So don't worry, the clauses I've mentioned that is amended, I have some slides for me to share with you, and we'll go through one by one and how do we link the workplace bullying to the clauses. But what I like all of us here to understand is we need to now open up the Pandora box that we have in the organization to look into all departments, sectors, grades, positions, and understand the dynamic that you have within the organization. If you feel or if you see any reasons to believe your workplace is a hostile working environment, it could be that there are plenty condoned harassment that has been done in the past. Or if you see a certain individuals are facing difficulties at the workplace, it could be from point of performance, from a point of disciplinary. It could mean he or she is a victim of bullying. Now, if I can simplify this even much easier for our viewers today, I would like to interchangeably use bullying and harassment because at the end of the day, to me, it is amounting to a misconduct, which means there is already a breach of trust and confidence of your attitude and behavior at the organization. So whether it's bullying or harassment, I won't dwell too much to distinctive between the two. But what I will look into is I'll collectively take it as a misconduct and we'll look into what we can do afterwards. Now, there are a lot of examples I can give when I interchangeably use these two. For example, there are situations at the workplace where an employee may say that there is a certain colleague or a certain superior always ask me personal questions and the way they ask is in front of other people and it makes them feel uncomfortable. Yang paling common yang selalu dapat is, hey, why are you not married yet? Selalu, kenapa tak kahwin lagi? And those somehow becomes a joke every time they see each other in front of meetings, personally, or even in small sessions. Apart from that, I also receive complaints regarding another person asking, bila nak ada anak? Benda ni sensitif. Malaysia, we can't really go on to ask these questions unless it is an invited question. Usually it's in a casual setting, kat kedai mamak, borak antara kawan. But when there is a professional environment, these sort of questions would lead people feeling either humiliated, offended, or intimidated, right? If it goes to a point of creating harm, right? This person rasa takut, malu, maybe attempted suicide. This is where the Malaysian government would like to capture it and say enough is enough. Other than that, we also have examples relating to unreasonable work expectations or dirty work assignments. I call it dirty because, in a way, it is malafide, bad faith. When a superior or colleague assign a certain task, they know it is assignment that is set to fail. Now, this sort of behavior will and can amount to bullying slash harassment. I also have situations where superiors, line leaders, and this is more towards manufacturing sites, you have them trying to control employees by raising their voice in a certain manner which can be deemed as rude, disrespectful, use terms that will make people hurtful, such as kalau orang tu buat silap, why are you so slow? Why are you so stupid? Kau ni bengap, kau ni lambat. Lambat okay sikit. Kau ni lembab, that hurts, right? So these kind of words, although it is perceived as just words of action, words of what do you call it, adjectives, it doesn't and it cannot be tolerated at the workplace, right? Moving forward, I also would like to share a case that I've recently handled where employees who were in a relationship together, right? Diorang ni macam very close to each other. Could it be that it's something official or unofficial? Official means they were married, they were engaged. Unofficial is office husband, office wife kind of thing. Now, this is not for the HR to dwell into. I'm not saying that you should start taking notes, but you may get cases where you know the past and history exists. Now, at this point, you receive information after they broke up. One of the spouse or one of the partner is now circulating photos, videos, conversations of the past. So this is where the government put a hard stop to say, okay, HR, if you can't deal it, don't worry, give it to us. Joking. This is where the police will now come into, and they do have clauses specifically dwelling with all of this. Now, should you have any questions, or should you feel like, hey, I've heard of these situations happening in my company, is this something that we can now, or is something that HR should now intervene? More likely than not, I would say 50% yes, but investigation would still need to come in, disciplinary procedures will need to come in. If we have time, I'll walk you through it later. Okay. Now, I would like to share with you a stack of laws that I would like you to carry whenever you have bullies or harassment as a grievance. When I say a stack of laws here means that you need to understand the legal map of the risks that you are facing or the risks that you potentially face with the grievance. Like I've mentioned earlier on in my webinar, we usually go back to our handbook and policy, right? So this is where the government will rely on certain clauses, certain procedures in order to combat bullying and harassing. Luckily for us, the government has also initiated an amendment or made an amendment and changes to OSHA Act in 2024. This was a big change. If you guys have not heard about it, or if you guys know but does not know fully about it, I believe it's time for us to dwell into this matter. Because under OSHA Amendment Act, they do mention that now employers have the obligation to ensure safe working environment. Has always been there, but now it covers psychological safety. Jadi kalau ada orang kena bully, ada orang kena harass, and it comes somehow leads to mental depression, illnesses. These all falls under OSHA Act, where OSHA says it is deemed as hostile working environment, and a lot of penalties are put in place for companies who fail to take action, fail to resolve it. Kenapa ni baru ke? Tak, benda ni dah lama. But it is more and more enhanced together with the introduction of the Penal Code Amendments. Now, under Penal Code Amendments, I don't want you to see that it is a full change of the Act. No. For the purpose of bullying and harassment, it is specifically to Section 507B to 507G. I do have slides to go through one by one and explain to you what these clauses means. But on top of all of this, when penal code is involved, it means that there could be criminal convictions. Criminal convictions lead to individuals being imprisoned individuals have to pay fines or even both. So how does this affect the company then? We also have thing called torts or actionable tort, where companies can also be involved or be accused as a party in the whole situation. I do have case laws where federal court have decided that sexual harassment, for instance, is an actionable tort, where companies can also be at risk at civil courts, not only at criminal courts. Okay. For CPC, it's more towards the procedural guidelines on how do we practically use the amendments in the penal code. So they supplement each other here. For the purpose of our discussion, you don't have to go through every technicalities of the amendment. I'll generally brief it for you, and I'll try to give examples along the way as well. But now, this is the stack that I mentioned earlier. The moment you receive a complaint of bullying and harassment, these are the acts and laws that we have to go through to see how we manage it properly. Now, I've mentioned to you examples about workplace bullying and harassment. Now, with the amendment in the Penal Code, how do we then make it criminalized? Easy. If the particular facts of those incidents lead to causing or likely to cause harassment, distress, fear, or alarm, then penal code will come in, the sections will be used. So before this, we only look at handbook whether or not there is a breach of disciplinary, right? For example, I mentioned to you, somebody shared somebody's photo of the past, messages, even maybe ambil gambar bos, edit, letak gambar setan, those kind of things, and they share it across the company. If that leads and can prove to harassment, distress, fear, or alarm, not only the company can take action, now the individual can be brought to court. Double attack here, okay, or double justice, so to say. Okay, somebody asked here, wouldn't it be a double injustice, double jeopardy? Very well. Well, it really isn't a double jeopardy if it's two different sets of law, which means company can still take actions against individuals who are found guilty of doing bullying harassment by way of using our disciplinary procedures and the test of balance of probabilities. Whereas when criminal offenses are involved, the police will use the test of beyond reasonable doubt. So these two tests may lead to different outcomes, and case laws have said we do not have to follow the same result. One test can have a different conviction and decision, and it's fine to follow it's fine to follow simultaneously. Tak perlu civil says I'm guilty, but police says I'm not guilty, so the company is not being sued. No, it can run concurrently. So double attack is what I meant. The individual will have to face in the future. Okay, great. Just a side note, it's also a bit sad to hear a lot more cases of bullying happening at school. I'm unsure whether this bullying has been around but only now being known to public, or it has been aggravated. So in either way, apart from us discussing about employment matters here, I would like to have a civil duty to share to all our viewers today. All of this can be can be subjected back to the environment, the household, and the upbringing of a certain place. And normally here we look at the rumah tangga lah. Okay, so banyak kes-kes bully kat sekolah, disciplinary procedure can come in for them. They don't know what that is, right? They only know school. So unfortunately for these people, we need to prevent it start from home. Alamak, tertazkirah pula. But I believe this is important to share. Now let me move on to share the clauses that has been amended and how it affects us. So I mentioned to you 507 is the clause, and not all has been amended, only from B to G. Now let's start with the first one. Somebody can't see the slide. Can I? Okay, good. Section 507B, causing harassment, distress, fear, or alarm is mentioned under Penal Code. So what does this mean actually? For all, I want you to understand that this happens, or this amounts to a criminal offense when an action is intended to cause, or knowing or ought to know, likely to cause harassment, distress, fear, or alarm to a person. I'll give you an example, say Ah Chong, right? A senior manager has a habit of publicly ridiculing his team leader, City, right? So this happens during weekly meetings, roll calls, monthly reviews. So he likes to call her slow. He likes to call her stupid. He likes to call her OKU at times. And all of these are hurtful. And all of this is done in front of her peers, often making sarcastic remarks about her performance even. So Siti becomes anxious. Siti had to take medical leave. And all of this is causing her depression, mental illnesses. So the old way, the traditional way of handling this matter is likely it will only lead to disciplinary issue, right? City has the option to use constructive dismissal. Company will take action against the accused. But under the new way, where Penal Code Amendment comes in, City can now lodge a police report against Ah Chong. So his repeated abusive words, abusive actions, cause her distress, cause her psychological harm, and therefore Ah Chong can be prosecuted under the criminal offence of Section 57B. This could mean imprisonment up to 3 years or fine or even both. Now, you see how it is now extended to protect the people. Now, this is just one example. It's not the only inclusive example. You may have seen in your workplace where shoutings are happening, people ridiculing, belittling, making comments, sarcastic remarks. We need to educate our people that this can go beyond the company. Now, it may not specifically be the company that is being imprisoned, siapa yang masuk penjara. But you should know, if an employee of your company is being imprisoned for this matter, it just shows the company in the beginning has failed to create a safe environment. In the beginning has failed to resolve the matter when it is being raised. We need to take action to ensure none of this attitude is happening or continuously happening at the workplace to avoid such things to happen, right? Now, sections 507C, it's almost similar, the same example of Ah Chong and Siti, but instead, the victim is not Siti. The victim are the peers. Say there is Kamala there and there is Abu sitting next to Siti every time the shouting happens. They know it's not targeted to them, but they fear and they feel alarmed they will be next. They fear and they feel alarmed that this hostile environment has caused them distress or is causing them distress. So they can even use 507C, even though it's not them. But one thing the clause has mentioned, which is quite interesting, is that there could be a defense by the accused person to say, I did not intend it to them. Unfortunately, they become a party to that. So because of this defense being introduced, we see the difference in type of punishment. So for the first one, where you directly done to a person, specifically to your line leader here, you will be imprisonment up to 3 years, fine or both. But if you indirectly do it to other of the peers, still guilty, imprisonment up to 1 year or fine or both. So these kita dah tak boleh nak tolerate. We may have situations where certain individuals, especially managers, are born with loud, raised voice. Janganlah kita nak ambil tindakan just because loud voice scares people. It must also be included with all the things I've mentioned in the definition earlier. It must be seen like it is a malicious intention. It must be seen like the purpose the person has done the action is not only to tegur, but to attack this person, right? To make sure this person knows I'm mad, knows the point. Kena drill dalam kepala dia. We have to be careful with this type of individuals. If you do have or if you can identify, we need to prevent. I'll share with you some tips to prevent later. Alamak, banyak cakap lah. Next section is under section, let me remove this slide. Okay, section 507D, right? This is causing belief or harm. Now 507D, they have two subclauses here, 1 and subclause 2. Subclause 1, causing belief of harm. Subclause 2, provoking self-harm or harm to others. Before I give example at the workplace, generally, we have here cases and news of other individual suggesting, provoking, or intimidate other people to do suicide attempts. Tell them that kau mati je lah, kau baik tak payah hidup lah. Kecil-kecil tak nak mati, besar-besar menyusahkan orang. Ayat-ayat tu, when it is being used generally, it can lead to a criminal offense now, yeah, especially when it can be proven. Why I'm saying this is because it's not only happening in Malaysia. Cyberbully, where this mostly happens, is a global phenomenon. Okay. Now, at the workplace, this can also happen. So some examples I can pull up for you would be, say, a group of employees who constantly taunts and ostracize one particular employee. It could be because the employee is from a poor family. It could be because this employee is very quiet in nature. It could be because of body shaming, right? So the way they kacau this employee is by hiding his belongings, spreading false rumors, exclude him from company activities or even social company activities. It can be done either physically or virtually, right? There could be events you have virtually. This person did not get the link purposely, right? So this person becomes so tormented, then he attempted to take his own life. So if you can also add in situations like this, normally we can see evidences of text messages, emails, WhatsApp conversations that says things like, we will make sure that you will lose your job. We don't like you here. You don't fit our culture. Or just end it. Tak perlulah hidup panjang menyusahkan orang. Itu kalau nak kasar lagi lah. So the old way, company would face significant liability in a civil suit, but not in a criminal suit, where perpetrators will be more complex to prove. But now, these employees' action, which intended to provoke and cause severe distress, are deemed as criminal offence. So if their actions are found to be an effector of a person's suicide, right, attempted suicide, whether jadi atau tak jadi, the penalties will be significantly higher. So here we see it is imprisonment up to 10 years. So jangan main-main with the words that we use. Sometimes when we want to joke around, we don't know those jokes can lead to a person feeling distressed. So when I say earlier on about body shaming, I do receive a lot of comments and complaints about people attempted suicide at the workplace due to feeling insecure. Colleagues like to talk about their body weight, body size, and I'm not just talking about plus size. Even small XS size are a target, a victim of all of these actions, right? Again, should you have any of this situation yang you're unsure, betul ke, bolehkah ambil tindakan? Feel free to reach to our consultants. We are more than happy to schedule a discussion and help to give our opinion on this matter. Okay, great. You have questions, keep it coming. I will sometimes lari-lari tengok soalan and tengok comments. Okay. Next is section 507E. This is known to be virtual cyberbullying. The favorite term or the common term is doxing dekat sini. Doxxing. If it's the first time you're listening it today, I can cut my finger. It won't be the last time you'll be listening it today. Reason being is because the moment law has introduced this and criminalized this as an punishable offense, you may hear more and more of these offenses coming out widely or publicly. So what does it mean actually? So doxing, if we can take the general definition of it, is when an employee or an individual shares information of another or spread information, personal information of another in order to harass or to bully them. In a way, it's malicious intended. They not cause harm to this person. So I give you an example, like say in your company, there is a guy named Michael. Right? So Michael gets into an argument with another colleague called Ravi. So their argument is purely because of a project that they're handling. But one of them took it personally. Let's say Michael took it personally. So Michael takes the personal information of of Ravi, photos, social media sites, photos of house, photos of family, and put it in online. It could be internal WhatsApp group, or it could be Facebook. And then you put in things like, this guy is a toot. Okay, this guy is a headache. He like to cause problem. Kalau nak tengok perangai-perangai dajal di dunia, tengok muka ni. Contoh, right? So you're trying to paste a position of bad or reputational disruption towards this person. And when these persons, for example, Michael here, feel unhappy, which could lead them to feel harassed, distressed, fearful, or even alarmed because of your sharing or because of Michael's sharing. So Ravi can take action for this, right? So this can fall under section 507D1. Yeah. Sorry, D1, like 7E, doxing. I've also had situations where HR are confused. Contohnya lah, ni gossip sikit lah. Let's say HR or IR receive a complaint stating that employee A, Aisha, broke up with employee B, Zul. Zul ni handsome, sangat handsome. So Aisha jealous. So Aisha starts spreading photos of Zul while they were intimate at one time. Don't fikir lebih-lebih. Intimate could just be hugging or cuddling at the cinema, at the restaurant. But because of these photos, it somehow disrupts Zul's performance at the workplace because now people are talking about it. And it's purely personal. So as a HR, you'll be thinking, should I intervene or should I not intervene? Ini kan benda personal. You entered into that relationship, you tak minta izin I pun. So now you dah tak ada relationship, now I kena masuk campur. Now, I want you to understand from a HR point of view, if Zul is coming from the perception that I am now a victim, you must initiate investigation straightforwardly. You need to now understand, does it amount to bullying and harassment? Does it amount to any of the sections under 507? Zul pun ada cakap pasal 507E. Does this amount to it? These are the types of investigation and question that you should first take into account. However, if Zul comes forward and only says this as an assumption, Zul says, I feel somebody is sharing about this, it could not be anyone else but my ex-girlfriend, right? But I don't have proof, nobody came forward, nobody said anything, it's just what I feel. So we can't straightforwardly say, oh, it's the ex-girlfriend. Nobody else could have done it. So the investigation will come in, your usual and existing disciplinary process will kick in, right? I want you to understand that when this becomes a when it becomes a criminal offense, when the police starts taking it into their own hands, they will always try to prove on beyond reasonable doubt. So kalau memang tak ada evidence, kalau memang tak ada witness, when nothing to prove that it did happen, lagilah dia orang tak nak ambil it as a case. So my tips for you, take it as long as it is a grievance when a person feels like a victim. Guide these people to know on how to create it as a case. So should it be a criminal offense, then great. Senang, you assist the police to show that this is what we've done. The company don't tolerate it. Unfortunately, we are limited to only doing this. Unfortunately, we are only having this in our company. So kalau police nak ambil tindakan or the public perception is in view now, at least the company is confident to say that we've done our best. Okay. The worst we could have is when complaint comes to you as a HR, it's a personal matter. Your answer would be, kau buatlah hal sendiri. Ini bukan hal company. Try your best not to use those kind of general blanket comments anymore. Okay, great. Now this is quite scary when I see global news of people asking other people to end their life. Kau baik, it's best for you not to breathe. It's best for you not to enter office. Your presence kills the vibe in the office. Those kind of things are bullying at this point. It can be a criminal offense. We got to be very careful on this. Now we also have 507G. This is a box that I compiled. Nanti kita akan share, don't worry. In 507G, it's not a criminal conduct, but it's more towards definition. And here they define identity information, communication. And just to simplify it for you, this all covers psychological harassment and bullying, distress. It also covers virtual and cyberbullying. So kalau you nak tahu, it's not just physical, it can also be virtual, right? So what does case law say about workplace bullying and workplace harassment? Okay, at a certain point, you may be thinking, we don't have a harassment law in the country. So like we have other countries that specifically has an act for it, workplace harassment, workplace bullying. So where are we in this? It's only a penal code. So penal code means it's general, kan? It's not only for employees. So first, let me walk you through where the industrial court agrees it exists in the workplace. There is harassment, there is bullying. And now with this acknowledgement, we can now take it to the criminal to say that, hey, look, even at the workplace, criminal offense happened because workplace recognizes bullying harassment. For example, Wong Chi Hong against Cathay Organization. This is an old case, the precedent case. The apex court affirmed that when an employer's conduct fundamentally breaches the employment contract, like humiliating demotions, unreasonable treatment, or making work intolerable, I told you it exists, the employee may treat themselves as dismissed. And under this pretext, it's a constructive dismissal. So even in this case, it says employees shouldn't tolerate such behavior. If I would like to add more, remember I mentioned about OSHA Act that was amended in 2024. Under OSHA Act, it says an employee has the right to dismiss themselves or to take themselves out of the harmful, hostile environment that they are in. And OSHA also mentions psychological harm, right? So next case, we have Muhammad Rizwan against Abdul Razak against Asmah binti Haji Muhammad Noor. In this landmark case, the federal court recognized that harassment, including sexual harassment, is actionable in tort. I mentioned this earlier, with damages available to distress and reputation damage. Hence, failing to prevent or address harassment invites litigation in multiple forms. Now, actionable tort here means that it can go beyond employment, it can go beyond the Industrial Relations Act, it becomes a matter in the civil courts. So it's a tort matter. So, under tort law, there will be damages that has to be proven. Once it's proven in court, you have to pay as a guilty party. So let's assume, just an example, in situation where an employee can prove, because my boss always call me at night, shouting, always chase me for unreasonable deadlines and unreasonable expectations, and the civil court is of the opinion this is all malicious, and the damages that this employee could prove is I lost, contohnya, payments for my psychological health. I have to pay specialists, I have to go to this treatment, psychiatrist is not cheap nowadays. All of this, the court says, okay, you pay back. Why? Because you caused all of this distress. I am not a practicing lawyer for me to share on how the damages is assessed, what are the legal procedures. I believe you have your panel of lawyers. But again, if you still want more information on this, we can connect you to the people we know for a fact does all of this, and basically they are practicing lawyers, right? Apart from the case laws that we have, banyak lagi. I'm just taking it 2 because if I were to do this for 4 hours, I can take 10 more cases. I can discuss with you bullying and harassment and the positions of the industrial court. I do not have criminal offences at this point on section 507 B to G, but if we were to have the same webinar next year, same time next year, I may have it already. Sebab benda ni baru, still recent. Okay. Now, timing. Let me share with you a little bit on how we can take measures to be reactive and responsive. This would normally be something that you have to be dealing it internally, and you have to be dealing it directly with the complainant. In other words, these steps that I'm going to share with you should be as and when it happens. I will also share with you how do we prevent it. Itu nanti. It's a different slide. For this one is how do we take action immediately at that time. Okay, so a few things that I would like to make clear or to establish and clear. So first and foremost is upon every time that you receive a complaint or before even a complaint comes, there are rumors or there are findings to show that the environment of the workplace is not healthy. You need to establish a clear reporting channel. Most of the companies that we have dealt in Malaysia already have your grievance and whistleblowing channel. Unfortunately, it has not been widely shared to the employees. So therefore, employees would say at the end of the day, I don't know where to report. Yes, I've heard we have a channel, but I don't know where to go. So a lot of times that I, as a consultant, directly to our clients, we would tell them, have posters everywhere around the company with QR codes that they can scan and to get directly to the link that they need to make a complaint. If you feel like posters, QR code is something too public, the moment somebody goes to the poster, scan a code, other people are judging them. You can go through email where they have links directly sent to them in their personal folder. So nobody knows they click the link, nobody knows they're making the report. So this takes effort, and this takes HR and IR some initiatives that you need to plan from the beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of the year. Don't just do it a one-time thing. I would like to also stress where we have audits measures when it comes to bribery and corruption. You know how now the law requires us to have a policy. The law now requires us to have training, so on and so forth. Use the same principle and concept for harassment and bullying. Okay. Next is to conduct a prompt investigation. Kalau boleh, jangan delay. Most of the cases that a company fails in court is due to condonation because of delays. Condonation here means the company is deemed to have accepted the wrongdoing, is deemed to have allowed the wrongdoing. In Malay, I like to use the term dah redha. The company allowed it to happen. So most cases, we will take an immediate step upon receiving a complaint. If I can give you a timeline if you need so, I would not go anywhere between 7 to 14 days from receiving the complaint to at least come up with an action plan or even to close it. The best is to close it. Action plan is because it maybe involves sensitive information, sensitive position. Most of cases of bullying harassment points coming from the top. So we got to be careful in managing those areas. So it will take maybe 1 month, 2 months, but the action plan must come immediately so that we know you're not sitting on it. We know the company is not condoning it. Apart from that, HR is handling a lot of issues as well. You may lose track of certain things that you are doing. You may lose information while you're conducting interviews, investigation. We highly recommend that you document step by step. This can go to the basic of having a buku 555, having an application for notes, having an AI prompt to follow you all the way, minute every conversation, minute every question and answer, have people to sign it. Now, this documentation would show that you have done the best, number one. Best here means there's nothing that you haven't flipped yet. Number two, it also gives people the feel that the company is not going to tolerate such grievances. We're really going to put our foot down. Even if the accusation is not true, even if you find out that the person is not guilty, but the actions can be seen by others, that's where you start building trust and confidence, right? And lastly is to cooperate with authorities. If you have people that works directly with the police, right? You could be having compliance officers. You could be having legal team. You would want to understand how will this case be escalated to the police? What other steps employees need to take for this case to be escalated? Now this, you can take it from 2 point of view. First point of view is you're putting yourself in the employee's shoes. What if my company fails to take action? What are my avenues? So you can mitigate there to ensure that they don't take those avenues. Second point of view is for the company to understand if we are in a position that we cannot help, maybe we are limited. It could be something that the police should intervene. Maybe the CEO's case of sexual harassment that the company feels it's best for the police to take into case. Lagi-lagi bila ada video recording, CCTV. You know for a fact it can be established beyond reasonable doubt. Know what steps you can guide this employee, what you do first, what you do next. And then you can also anticipate if it falls here, how can the company help further. Right. Apart from that, if I can add one more, just coming on top of my mind, we have a lot of service providers out there for mental illnesses, for mental health assessments. Kindly ask and lead employees to go towards these avenues should you feel like it could be resolved if the company has coaching session with the accused and terus settle, but the person who are the victim need further support because people are traumatized, right? These things are not easy. Bukannya luka hari ni esok dah baik. So for the counsel people, mungkin diorang dah sedar they won't do it again. But the victim here, lead them to the avenues where it can still assist them and give support in the long run. Great. Next, I'd like to share with you on how to have a proactive and prevention. So policies, something we can't run away. Every time company want to take action, be it a disciplinary or performance action, we will go back to existing clauses we have in the handbook. We want to use this to say that the company has already impolitely and expressly informed you cannot do this. So we're taking action because you are accused of doing so. But it becomes a challenge where employees would say things like, ini bukan satu kesalahan, this is not a mistake, nothing written in the handbook to say that I cannot call a person fat, nothing in the handbook to say that I cannot ask a person if you're married. So these guidelines, knowingly that the law has changed and cover more areas, we have to step forward and review and update. So this is where I would normally come into companies and we give examples in the handbook. We give scenarios inside the handbook. So you have no reason to say you don't understand what it means here. We have to take the additional step. I can even suggest to you some of our existing clients. We are helping them to do videos for educational purposes. So the policies we have here, we have employees of their company acting out it, right? So if an employee calls this person XXX, if an employee touch a person at certain areas, what are the responses required, or we suggest to have a response? How do we raise the concern? You can be creative about this. It may not even be A4 black and white paper. It can be in video format. It can be in infographic. It can be in posters. But the communication needs to be there, right? I would just add the second point here. It covers a zero tolerance policy or zero tolerance stance. Kita memang tak main-main. We kind of like hoo-ha this thing out just to showcase that we really are going to take serious measures when it comes to bullying and harassment. Next is to conduct mandatory training. This one I combine with point number 4. Mandatory training here, I would like to subject it to all the employees of the company, regardless you're a long-serving employee, you're a new employee, or a probation staff, regardless if you're a senior manager or you're a shop floor employee, it has to come up across. In most cases we have, especially in areas of manufacturing, shop floor areas among themselves where they want to run the lines, they want to run the machines. All the management wants to see is at the end of the day, the output, the KPI, the production is at par, is at standard, is at expectation. But what we fail to realize is how they do it, how do they achieve it. And this is where I feel most of the cases of bullying, harassment will come from these areas. I rasa. So benda ni baru, but I've seen this happening in the past. So now that the avenues is available, TikTok sharing is going widely spread, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, a lot of influencers are now saying, kalau boss you cakap ni, you complain macam ni. Kalau boss you cakap ni, you buat macam ni. And that somehow makes me feel concerned. And you need to be prepared. Shop floor areas needs this training as well. They need to be communicated what are the do's and the don'ts. And the empowerment of managers is when it comes to office or white collars mostly. Right? The way you chase deadlines, you set expectations, the way you give constructive feedbacks, the way you give performance reviews, it now could lead to criminal offenses. So like I said, it could, as a company, kita boleh lepas tangan, it's an individual problem, but the reputational damage is something we can't run away from. Right? So these are the areas of concern which I believe need to have reactive and preventive measures. Banyak saya cakap. Okay, and I would love it if the companies work closely, not only with legal people understanding the law, but also IR, HR consultants, doctors from backgrounds of mental illness and assessments. These whole areas can help employee to develop themselves to know what is right, what is wrong, can also develop a toxic environment. We clean it out. Kita buat 5S dengan environment kita. Right? This is all required, and only HR and IR can be the front line for this. And when I say only is because normally these initiatives come from your budget. These initiatives come from your planning. So if you fail to see this amendment as something progressive and required, then you are terlambat. You akan, orang kata, tertinggal boat. Because coming January, with the fast pace of how information is spread and misinformation is spread, you got to be prepared for this. I can give you an example. This year alone, sebabkan TikTok, sebabkan all of this influencer sharing, I'm not complaining about information being shared. I'm more than happy because Malaysians are now well informed, which we need them to be. But I'm concerned when the information is only half true. For example, banyak video I dapat from Reels to say that annual leave itu adalah hak pekerja. You can use it anytime. It's yours to begin with. Kena reject, complain. It's not true entirely. It is true annual leave is yours as an individual and as an employee. It's given by Employment Act. It's given by the Contracts Act. But the most important element is for you to receive approval for you to go on annual leave. Kena dapat pelepasan syarikat dan majikan. Bukan kita suka-suka pergi. Part 2, dia tak cakap. Those portion information is purposely left out. Why? Because tak jadi best lah, tak viral lah kalau video part ni keluar. So here is where consultants like myself and my colleagues will come in and help out. So with all the sharings that we have today, We will be sharing more as the time goes on when we have cases that we personally handle at the company, when we have cases we see being decided at the IR department and court. Until then, we will keep on having sharings, articles, webinars on this matter and topic. Okay, great. I still have time for Q&A. Nasib baik. I'm going to answer a few questions. I see a lot of questions have been put here. Like I mentioned, if you don't have your name, I may not be able to come back to you after this session. So kindly put your name and your details. So even if I can answer here, I'll give you a call or send you an email. This is something that I'm more than happy to assist. Now let's see the questions. Mari kita start dulu ya. This one will come. Oh, okay. I'll start from the top. If there are questions that are not relevant to today's discussion, unfortunately, I have to skip that. I saw a few questions about stamping, a few questions about performance. If it's not directly related to bullying and harassment, I may need to skip it. I hope you understand. Yeah? Okay, I do have a question from Deepika Gopal. Yeah? In a situation where management does not communicate expectations clearly and appears to be targeting a single individual, would this fall under any of these provisions? If you ask me, I would say yes, because unclear expectations, unclear instruction would lead people to feeling distressed, demotivated, and to a certain level feel a bit hostile coming to work. But I wouldn't jump the gun to straight away say it's the manager's fault. It could also be that communications has been done, but the employee refusing to accept what is being targeted, refusing to accept what is being discussed as a KPI. For this purpose, investigation is required. If the complaint comes in, I will definitely take it. Okay, good one. What are the procedures to terminate an employee under the probation period due to workplace misconduct? I would love to answer this, but can I reserve Chua Siu Yuan for a different call? I have 4 to 5 measures. Not to say I champion to terminate. No, I'm just saying that these are the avenues we realize exist. We can have a separate discussion on this. Okay, I skip this on there. What protection does a whistleblower actually has in the context of the recent MACC prosecution of the whistleblower in Sabah corruption case? Wow. Okay, I will not go into the Sabah matter. It's an ongoing case, but I will say these trivial matters should not be left in the dark. So as citizens, we need to speak more of this. We need to talk more and give more awareness. But to answer whether on this question on the whistleblowing protection, in Malaysia, we have a whistleblowing act, and the protection they have, if I am not wrong, extends to 3 categories: to the individual making the complaint, to the families of these people making the complaint, and also protection for any retaliation, either at the workplace, either it's a criminal or civil action. Okay. However, whistleblowing act only protects if it involves is whistleblowing act. Companies whistleblowing policy is slightly different. We don't have that form of protection. Kita tak ada safe house. Kita tak ada additional expenses to send your family and kids to international school if anything happens. Those are protected under Malaysia. So for company, it is quite based on discretion of the business. How much you put in as a protection. Generally, the protection is extended to covering your name, information of the complainant. We won't even involve you if there were to be disciplinary proceeding. We won't even involve the complainant when it involves any inquiry, just to safeguard the complainant's name. That's how whistleblowing works generally. Okay, next one. How should HR do if there is workplace bullying happen? Is it a must to report to police? Very good question. What you should do, you can take point of what I've mentioned earlier, the measures and preventive actions. But when it comes to police, I would give my comment the same as how I would give a comment for other types of misconduct that can be criminalized. For example, sexual harassment, theft case, kecurian, dadah, drug-related offences. First and foremost, as a company, your first action is to see what the company can take action based on your disciplinary policy. So maybe you do your disciplinary inquiry, your show cause letter, your domestic inquiry, and then you terminate on the grounds of reasons to believe it happened, which is based on balance of probabilities. And the question, should I then now report police? Up to you. If you ask me generally as a citizen, say as a responsible citizen, we would want to have a safe community. So if it relates to corruption, if it relates to drug-related offences, I would suggest for you to report to the police. However, if it is cases where you have reasons or you know for a fact, police can't prove beyond reasonable doubt. That doesn't mean you shouldn't complain or shouldn't report, but you can rely more on balance of probabilities. So maybe you can choose to only take actions to where you can. So you tak perlu report polis. Tapi kalau you rasa benda ni penting untuk report, or even you have an existing audit and compliance that says all criminal offence needs to be reported, you have to report lah, no choice. Okay. In a way, I can also say if you don't report, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big offence. It's not even an offence if the company don't report. 50-50. Rasa bersalah pula cakap jangan report. Okay. Does it mean it's down to the police officer to determine if there is an offence or otherwise? Correct, Yusuf. Once the police gets the information and they will try to relate to which section of the penal code, they will go on the basis of beyond reasonable doubt. So this is where I would like to alarm people here. Don't be surprised if you have reasons to believe it happened, but the police says otherwise. I don't have enough evidence. Tiada bukti yang kukuh. Don't be demotivated for that. Because as I have explained earlier, case laws have recognized two different tests. They won't combine both. They will fully respect you with the balance of probabilities, and they will respect the police for beyond reasonable doubt. Okay, next one. How to deal with the management who abuse, not be able to follow the above. I hope your boss is not here. Joking. Usually the party dan degil or the tough cookie when it comes to have change of culture, change of action, change of attitude and behavior at the workplace, it must start from the top. But this is where I say I understand it's not going to be easy. So how do we deal normally is instead of taking punitive actions, instead of kita ambil tindakan disciplinary atau tindakan disiplin, right? We give a show cause, we take disciplinary. Why not we start off with the trainings first? Why not we start off making it as a compulsory audit for every year? That all managers have to go through the trainings. All superiors, management have to go through what can and cannot be done. To make it better, you put me in the training. It's okay. You can ask any consultants and lawyers to give them somewhat of a scare tactic with real life evidence and cases to show that this is no longer tolerable. You'll be surprised that there are managers I've met who are very good in what they do. They know A to Z in all parts of the business function, all parts of the business requirement. However, they do not know that you cannot shout to employees. They do not know calling an employee bodoh is wrong because to them bodoh kan bahasa Melayu. Bahasa Melayu kan kata adjektif. Yes, you can justify it, but the context you're using it, if it falls within the definition I've shared today, if it falls within the section 507 clauses, it will be then a criminal offense and a disciplinary misconduct. Okay. Next. If an employee is due to be terminated within the probation period due to poor performance in work, what I say is that, okay, Monisa, I would like to take you into the same room as Chua Siu Yen because these questions are on probation and I will directly connect you for probation matters. But after this session, maybe give me some time, either tomorrow or the day after, you will receive an email from me on this. If you would like to have this sort of treatment as well, not just for Monisa and not just for Chua Siu, you can just drop us an email. Drop us with your query and your contacts. If it's not myself, I will have all other colleagues to help us with this. Okay, next. Since the company already has multiple policies in place, such as COC, ethics, anti-bribery, conflict of interest, PDPA, social media policy, grievance policy, that collectively address the key elements covered under the Penal Code Amendment, is it still necessary for the company to develop a separate policy specifically on the Penal Code? Now, generally in COC, which is when you discuss on code of conduct and ethics, and when you discuss about social media policy or grievance to a certain point, you will have these definitions of bullying and harassment. So it is redundant if you were to introduce a new policy where you already have it. So my suggestion is for you to compile the information in your existing policy, make it and develop it into a one session of communication to employees, or maybe one poster for employees. So my idea here is the same as how I've mentioned early on in my webinar about the stacking of legal compliances. So when you want to talk about bullying and harassment, there's a stack of law that we need to understand how and what deals with this. So inside your poster, stack out COCE, COC, Clause A, Clause B, you stack out PDPA, you stack out sexual harassment, you take out all of this to show that all of this is within the company. So don't you dare do anything that is against it, because now you will be subject to criminal offense. So again, the communication that you create is new, but it's not a new policy. It's just a new set of awareness. I hope that works for you, Fadlana, and I hope it works for the others as well. If you want help, kalau your company doesn't have designers, don't worry, ask us. We do have our people that can help suggest some designs. I can tell you about sexual harassment, when it becomes a requirement for business to have posters everywhere in the company, or at least in the public area. Our designer, OT, but he does have very good designs just to show and share the awareness to people. Okay. What are the compulsory actions we need to comply with the amendments? Do we need to have any campaign or awareness, or any practice needs to be implemented? Now, I captured the term compulsory here. Nothing is mentioned as a compulsory or obligation for companies to do. It's just a matter of for you to know what it is, which means to know the changes, and it is somewhat impolitely being told that you also need to educate your people. So this is where campaign and awareness comes in. If you feel, alamak, kita dah cukup budget for this year, we don't have room for us to initiate a new awareness, you can jump on the wagon of your current plans that you have until the end of the year. Or if you feel that you struggle here, reach out to me or any of our consultants. We have been doing initiatives such as HR Open Day. We do initiatives such as HR awareness. It could just be a 1 week, 2-3 days awareness, like we kickstart it, we live start it, everyone knows what's happening, and then we can just close the book for this year. And you continue the same tactic the year and the year upcoming. You can even plan for onboarding. Every onboarding dah kena ada specific discussion on bullying. Okay, if you look from where I come from, you would understand that what I'm trying to tell you is not only for individuals need to know about this, but we need to look at it from a cultural point of view. We want people to feel safe at the workplace. We want people to work long at the workplace. So these sort of things need to start from asal, from the get-go, from the taking of the employees to the receiving the complaints to even trying to prevent at the end for everyone else. Okay, I can take just one more question. The rest, like I say, we will try our best to answer. We will answer all. We'll try our best in the meantime, in the short time. Okay. How do HR should act with all this workplace misconduct if it involves higher position? If MNC, my suggestion would go through your whistleblowing third-party channel. Most MNCs would have your designated and appointed panels, could be in the HQ global or a third-party global. These people would have direct access to the business minds, which means they would have higher authority than your local people here. Then they can take action and take certain measures. Don't worry, they're only very professional. When I say these people, they are professional people. So in a way, they won't really share information. They won't share issues relating your complaints. Takkan gossip lah, so to say. We are quite premature when it comes to this. When I say premature, I look at independence of the country. The country out there, they have been independent for so long, for hundreds of years. We are quite new, baru 68 tahun this year, right? That means that many issues that we are only facing now, they have faced. So that's why we don't have Workplace Harassment Act, Workplace Bullying Act, but they already have it. So when we put our trust into these global panels to take action, we can trust that they know what to do. Now, if you are not MNC, if you're local, you must and need to learn how the global people do it, how confidentiality is kept properly. Who are the reporting people that can see the complaints, the PICs, designated people? How are the reporting channels? These are the things that you need to develop within the company. So no senior management is safe from these procedures. It can even be for the founder of the company, CEO, MD of the business. So once you have this, it's not HR ambil tindakan kepada orang atas. It's the company using existing policy to take action for a grievance involving a higher management. Cantik kan when I put it, it's the company and not the HR or the department. If you don't know where to start, this is where our consultants can come in. We can develop for you or introduce to you what we already have in your industry. Different industry have different approaches. Food industry, IT industry, manufacturing, they have different approaches when it comes to managing grievances, depending on the size as well, and also how or types of grievances. More often than not, we will be able to tell once we understand and learn your business. Okay. Okay, boleh lagi kot. Ambil lagi question. Next one. How we could receive the updated information from all related to HR. Linda Lee. If I'm being biased here, join our retainer, join our WhatsApp channel, join our email distributing channel, because from our retainer programs, we are passionate to ensure all of these updates are given to our clients and members. Now, if let's say at this point you have no means to enter into a retainer, you are only as a small company, baru nak belajar, then follow through to the events that we have such as today. It's free. You can get information here. If you want written articles, our website ada. We have written some articles and some point of view that the consultants have regarding the change of law and the practical use of it. Reach out to us on the events page and also the articles page. Okay. Next one. How to justify bullying in workplace. I mean, let's say if happened outside workplace during office hour, no witness and only that one person claim being bullied, not physical, while others never experience the same. Okay, let me share with you one golden rule I will hold closely when it comes to establishing misconduct where it's a hearsay, probable for a hearsay complaint. When I say hearsay complaint is example in this situation, it's only one person. And normally this harassment and bullying, alhamdulillah, happens in a secluded area, in a closed environment, right? There's no CCTV, no witness. I will take on the golden rule where there is a case decided in the industrial court where they mention corroborative evidences. The absence of corroborative evidences doesn't defeat the claim, which means even though there's no witnesses, no recording, no nothing for you to prove that it happened, doesn't mean it never happened. So the onus or responsibility now goes towards the company before they take action to decide it did happen. What are the investigations taken into place? What are the considerations that you have on a scale? You have more reasons to believe it happened rather than it did not happen. So don't worry, Ain. Case law suggests even though you don't have anything at this point, case will be still taken seriously. And second of all, usually this is a stepping stone for HR to start educating people on what you need for you to prove a certain case. So when I mentioned about the training earlier on, when I say that it's a plan-wide discussion for all employees to know what they need to do, we will involve information such as this. If you feel a boss only targeting you, only call you after office hours, you can't prove it because nobody listens to it. Start recording it. Start taking this, start taking that. Screenshot this, screenshot that. But we are not really trying to educate people betul-betul to go against the company. But if you hear me out, if we are not afraid to tell people what's the right thing to do, then we shouldn't be afraid of dealing any issues of bullying and harassment in the future. In a way, kita berani kerana benar. So we shouldn't be afraid to tell people if your boss is shouting at you, record the conversation. HR wants to hear about it. We shouldn't be afraid of saying things like this, even though it will implicate your business, even though it will implicate the individual. Reason being is because you should look at this at the long run. We are not only settling, we are not only firefighting, so to say. We are creating a culture, we're creating an environment. That's why OSHA amended to say that it should be a safe environment. Never mention about a safe case, never mention about a safe employee. It's fully about how the workplace is, right? So I hope that helps you out here. And once you have started out to educate people on how to do it, hopefully for you, Ain, in the future, at least people will come to you with more information and evidences. Thank you. Next one. Daphne Tan. Are we legally obligated to submit a police report when any of the criminal offences are allegedly committed within the company? I will reiterate what I shared earlier for this question. There is no law to really say it's an obligation for you to report all criminal offense. There is a social contract for this, right? People would implied or expressly known about this. Impliedly known about this. It's expected for you. However, for the business alone, there is no obligation. So this goes back to the company and how the company would like to view in taking care of criminal offenses. So I mentioned example earlier on, it's like theft, right? Maybe fighting, violence at the workplace. If you are holding the position that you don't tolerate any criminal offense, and you also take a position where any criminal conviction would render the contract to be terminated, then I would highly suggest for police to be involved for every of criminal offenses. However, if your stance of the company is we will take it into the company's consideration and action, only after that we will leave it to the complainant, which is the individual at this point, the victim, for them whether they want to make it a police report. So it's not the company deciding, it's the victim who decides. Nothing wrong, it's just the approach on this matter. I highly suggest, if possible, report. But I do understand some cases you can't force a person to take a case if they don't want to take a case. So maybe the individual coming to you to complain is enough to resolve the matter. You don't want to go to the police. Maybe it's enough that you help me. I don't need my boss to be in jail for this matter. So it goes back to the employee and the victim's consideration. Okay, next question. Hi, Christine. What if after some employees raise concerns and they don't consent to reveal the identities, it will be challenging for HR to validate the subject person without revealing much info? Then how can we take disciplinary? Show cause the subject person. I can have multiple ways of answering this, but it could also lead to some confusions. Let me try to simplify this. First and foremost, if it is a whistleblowing channel and you are holding the stance of not revealing individuals who complain, then your priority should be how to guide people in raising a complaint, which means when they raise a whistleblowing, don't say things like, humble Allah at Block C had done this. They should be educated to give information to a point where HR or company knows who to take action against, what are the criminal or misconduct that had happened. So this will take I wouldn't say a long, but it will take some initiatives for you to achieve this ideal world of whistleblowing. However, when it comes to grievances, it's not a whistleblowing, it's a direct complaint from one employee to another superior or colleague. And this employee is asking you, please, jangan bagi tahu nama I. I can see where your challenge is. Because in an inquiry, domestic inquiry, you need to call the witness or the maker of the complaint to come forward and give statements of what had happened. And if you find that you can't do this, you can't achieve people to come forward, I don't recommend for you to take disciplinary action because you can't simply prove it. Even on a balance of probabilities, your difficulty leading you to not being able to prove the case. So what do we do here? How do we handle this problem then? Simple. It starts back to how you first approach the employee to build confidence in this person to know that there's no retaliation, to build confidence to this person that the HR is helping them through, and confirm that you will be making sure that the bosses can't take any further action. Now, you can only promise this if you're confident to promise. So I am not in a position to say how your HR strength is in the company, but you should be looking at this strength and develop it so that the company knows this is required, right? So the HR need to be able to promise people this won't happen, won't promise people this won't happen. So then they will be more happy to come forward. So at this point, maybe you have cases that you are losing it. You have cases that you know these people mati-mati die don't want to do it. But that doesn't stop you to have the same group of individuals in the future. This is where onboarding education comes in. This is where trust and confidence comes in from the get-go. So if you find the difficulty is big for you today, you should look at it from a different angle to reduce those areas of difficulty first. And trust me, you will be much better characters in your organization. Wah, Zul, cakap senang. Semua senang cakap macam daripada buku. I've seen this happening. It is experience that we have gone through. The consultants that we have here have more than, if combination, 20 years of experience. Some of the things that we have done has given successful trades. We have seen toxic people left the organization and those newly hired following the culture we intended to create up until today. So nothing is impossible. It's just a matter of planning in the long run, planning properly so that people knows how the culture is within the business and how we want to set it to be. Okay. Right. Next, Nur Fairuz, what should HR look for to spot early signs of potential bullying or doxing before a formal complaint is made? This is quite a refreshing question, and I like this. Um, I mentioned earlier on, I'm not sure, Fairuz, if you were with me from the beginning, but I'll reiterate it. Example bullying, it may be something that is can easily spot if it is an aggression, right? Somebody would belittle a person in front of people. Somebody would give sarcasm to make jokes. Somebody would give humiliating comments in front of others. So it's quite easy to spot that this aggression happens. However, there are also a form of bullying where it happens very subtly. For example, colleagues and bosses not inviting people to social events, colleagues and bosses ignoring comments, ignoring complaints, ignoring constructive communications. Now, these are all happening subtly because obviously you can't spot this, you can't hear it, you can't see it. So here I would like you to focus on the individual. So first things first, as HR, if there were to be performance issues raised to you, don't straight away tengok, alah performance ni Mamat ni malas nak kerja ni, gaji dapat je malas. We have that negativity because we think performance is always personal problem. However, based on my experience, performance is not entirely a personal problem. It could be a management problem. So I have a question earlier on that asked me about the how do we take action for those underperformance, right? In my opinion, if you were to look into reasons why a person performing poorly, it could also mean to start from an unclear path of communication, an unclear expectation, an unclear KPI. Then only you will look into areas of how does the management or superior approach these people. So the poor performance, you may unearth things like he or she has been shut down for many occasions. He or she in meetings has been belittled for many occasions. So in order for you to spot the one obvious and which are aggressions, one is when you have issues of performance of an individual, right? Say that the performance issue didn't even come to you, but somebody else will come to you and say, I see my colleague is being demotivated today or recently. Sedih je, masuk macam nampak zombie, right? Macam tak ada hati, dah hilang kononnya nak kerja. These are also areas where you can spot people who may face work problem at the workplace. I would say it's quite easy to see a victim, right? Especially when it comes to bullying and harassment. It's not easy to spot a heartbreak. Heartbreak orang simpan kan, the break dengan girlfriend, gaduh dengan isteri, suami. It's not easy. It can still be spotted, but it's not easy. But when it comes to workplace bullying harassment, you know that they cannot fake it when they are in the environment that caused those distress. Kalau suami isteri gaduh kat rumah, datang office, isteri dah lupa dah kat rumah tu. But it's different when it's at the workplace. You can somehow tell a person is acting weirdly and most of the time quite negatively. Maybe it's a point of view to open up your eyes, open up your ears to be more observant. It's a call for that maybe, right? I can even suggest for you to create avenues for people to have peer group programs. We always hear it in schools. There's a reason why it worked there. Why can't it work here? Peer group programs here means that we help to look for each other's back, where we help people to raise concerns, we help people to walk and talk to individuals that they might think have a problem, be it a workplace problem or personal problem, somehow to encourage people to speak up with each other. Okay. All right. I can take one more last one here, guys. And the lucky person we have here is Aki. Oh my God, did I say it right? How if the harassment case has been closed internally via grievance process, but victims still proceed to lodge police report? Any action required from the company? Jeng. Unfortunately, Aki, let me say Uki lah kan. Unfortunately, Uki, this is where we do not have the rights to stop employees from lodging a police report. It's the similar concept as we don't have the right to stop an employee to file unfair dismissal claims. Even though you've done the best PIP, you've done domestic inquiry for disciplinary, but this person can still lodge a complaint for unfair because they find it unfair to begin with. So here, we can't stop an employee to go to the police. We can't even sue an employee if they want to go to the police and file a report. But what we need to ensure at this point is if they were to go to the police, we can justify to the police or to the tribunal or the civil court that the company has taken its stance by doing its investigation, by having a finding or outcome that suggests it does not amount to what this employee is saying. So if the court is thinking otherwise, they wouldn't say that the company purposely or intentionally kill your comment or grievance. They tried, and this is what they find. And the court will have the understanding that companies are not legal institutions. So we don't really follow through exactly like how the court will deal with the matter. But as long as we show genuineness, in industrial court even, the industrial court looks at good cautious and equity. What does that mean? It means it will bypass technicalities once you can show we've been fair, we've done our best. But if you can't have this confidence to begin with, that's where I suggest we start. That's where I suggest with this amendment, it's a wake-up call for many of us. Now, so when I have this open discussion with my client, existing or potential clients, I have a feeling that many employers do not see how HR or IR is important in educating people when it comes to this. They always think that when it comes to criminal offense, it's an individual matter. But I've mentioned to you time and time again that it is our duty as frontliners of the business, HR and IR, to ensure that we are keeping safeguard of the company's reputation when it comes to working environment. That is our, I would say, big gate that we have to keep. Second is, even if we can't keep that gate closed, when the gate opens, at least we can show everything that the company has done so far leading to this case has been fair and genuine. There's nothing that we have not done yet. Unfortunately, we may not have the right means. We may not have the right knowledge for us to conclude the matter as how courts will. Court won't kacau you. Court won't say that, yeah, you're guilty, you're a bad employer. Okay, even if it goes to the public, now kan semua benda nak pergi kat Twitter, dekat TikTok, even if it goes there, at least we are more confident to say, hey, what else do you expect us to do? We've done our best. Okay, guys, see a lot more questions here. I hope I am able to answer for those that I'm able to answer. For those that I am unable, I promise you that we will reach out to you if we know your details directly. For those who came in late, who missed out the earlier portion of our discussion, you can directly reach out to us. If it's me, you can directly email me. If not, you can just go to any of our consultants. I can bet you all of us here are well trained when it comes to this, and we're more than happy to help you. Right? We also have events coming up in the future. If you are the kind of company who love only to know updates, then just join our retainer. So then you don't have to worry all year long. Every year, you will always get updates when IR, HR. And only when you can, join our events when it's permissible. With that, I would like to say thank you very much, guys. I apologize if I were to say something wrongly, if I were to offend anyone, if I were to seem as a bully or harassing. It's my topic, so I have to share the examples. I hope I don't answer. Should you again feel that you are unsure whether it's happening at the workplace, you are unsure whether or not you are ready for the changes, reach out to us or reach out to your internal compliance people to know where you stand. With that, Assalamualaikum and thank you very much. Hope to see you again in our next webinar updates. With that, thank you. See you. Say bye-bye on the comments as well. I can see. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.